The acceptance letter had been a mistake. Everyone knew it. Edith knew it. The registrar knew it. Even the battle-scarred Vraxian administrator who processed her paperwork knew it. His mandibles clicking in what she'd learned was their species' equivalent of nervous laughter. "Human," he'd said, his translator crackling. "You understand this is the Obsidian Gauntlet Academy? For void combat specialists." Edith had smiled. That particular smile. The one that made her look like she was in on a joke no one else understood. "There's been a clerical error, I think. But I'm already here, so..." The administrator's 3 eyes had blinked in sequence. In the 600 cycles since the Academy's founding, no one had ever responded to a mistaken admission with a shrug. Now, 3 weeks into the semester, Edith stood in Formation Hall alongside 200 of the galaxy's most lethal warrior candidates. To her left, a Carthex whose exoskeleton was already scarred from childhood combat trials. To her right, Cassius, a human like her, though that's where the similarities ended. Cassius was exactly what the galaxy expected from Earth's warrior class. 2 meters of engineered muscle, gene-modded reflexes, tactical implants glowing faintly beneath his temples. He'd been bred for this. Selected from birth. Trained since he could walk. Edith had been an administrative clerk at a mining consortium. She'd applied to the Obsidian Administrative Academy. Someone had dropped a word from the system. Today, Instructor Vrock bellowed, his 12 limbs flexing in intimidation display. "You face the crucible of separation. 60% of you will fail. 40% of those will die. The rest will simply wish they had." Edith raised her hand. The entire hall went silent. In warrior academies across 1,000 worlds, one did not raise one's hand. One simply endured. "Yes." Vrock's voice dripped with contempt. "Is there a form for deferment? I really think there's been a mistake with my..." Silence. Vrock's roar shook the chamber. "There are no mistakes in the gauntlet. Only the worthy and the dead." Edith lowered her hand and smiled that smile again. "Okay, just checking." Cassius glanced at her sidelong. Over 3 weeks, he'd watched this impossible creature somehow survive where Titans failed. She shouldn't be here. She had no combat augments, no military background, no genetic optimization. She was soft where they were hard, slow where they were fast, weak where they were strong. And yet, the crucible of separation was elegantly simple. Survive 12 hours in the Academy's combat simulation zones. These weren't gentle holoprograms. They were real environments with real gravity wells, real atmospheric toxins, and very real automated defense systems that had killed candidates before. Edith was assigned to Zone 7, a collapsed megastructure with unstable gravity fluctuations and hunter-killer drones. Cassius drew Zone 3, a volcanic hellscape. "Hey," Edith said to him before they separated. "If you see any vending machines in there, the Zrixian protein cubes are actually pretty good." Cassius stared at her. "This is a survival trial. There are no vending machines." Right. Well, good luck anyway." The zones activated. In Zone 3, Cassius became what he was designed to be, a perfect weapon. His implants mapped threats. His muscles moved with superhuman precision. His tactical training anticipated every attack pattern. He fought. He bled. He survived. It was glorious. It was hell. It was exactly what he'd been built for. In Zone 7, Edith was very lost. The first hunter-killer had nearly vaporized her. She'd stumbled, fallen through a gravity fluctuation, and watched the drone's plasma bolt miss by centimeters. The second drone had tracked her for 6 minutes before a structural collapse took it offline. "This is fine," she muttered, crawling through a maintenance shaft that definitely wasn't designed for candidates. "This is totally fine." She found a terminal. Old. Possibly ancient. Definitely not part of the simulation. Edith had been a very good administrative clerk. She understood systems, not combat systems, but bureaucratic ones. Institutional ones. She looked at the terminal's access logs and saw something interesting. The hunter-killer drones were running on legacy firmware. The kind with scheduling protocols. She smiled. 30 minutes later, every drone in Zone 7 received an official Academy maintenance directive, signed with appropriately forged credentials, instructing them to return to charging stations for mandatory systems update. They obeyed. Edith spent the remaining 11 hours napping in a relatively comfortable maintenance bay, having routed the Academy's own surveillance to show her running and dodging in an endless loop. When the zones deactivated, Cassius emerged covered in burns and glory. 17 other candidates had survived. 3 were being carried out on medical graph stretchers. Edith walked out of Zone 7 looking slightly dusty. Cadet Edith. Instructor Vrock examined his datapad with all 3 eyes. Your telemetry shows continuous evasion patterns. Remarkable survival instincts for a human without augmentation. Thank you, sir. How many hunter-killers did you destroy? Oh, I didn't destroy any. She paused. I asked them nicely to leave me alone. Vrock's mandibles twitched. The translator couldn't quite capture what he said next, but Cassius understood the tone, utter bafflement. That night, in the candidate barracks, Cassius finally asked her, "How are you doing this?" Edith looked up from the requisition form she was filling out. Apparently, the academy had lost her bedding allocation, and she was correcting their inventory system. Doing what? Surviving. You're not like us. She smiled. That smile. You know what I learned working clerical? Every system, doesn't matter if it's a mining consortium or a killer academy, every system runs on protocols, rules, forms, paperwork. She held up the requisition form. You all learned to fight the system. I just learned how the system works. Cassius considered this. He'd been designed to win through superior combat capability. She was winning by understanding that someone, somewhere, had programmed the combat capabilities, and that person had used standard drop-down menus and default settings. You're terrifying, he said. I'm really not. I'm just. She paused, considering. I'm just a human who reads the manual. By graduation, Edith would be legendary, not for her combat skills, but for the time she defeated an invasion simulation by submitting the invading fleet's commander a notice of improper customs documentation. For the battle she won by filing a noise complaint against the enemy's sonic weapons. For the war game, she ended by pointing out that the conflict violated 3 separate galactic treaty articles and CC&G the appropriate oversight committees. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity's warriors. They were about to learn something far more terrifying. Humanity's bureaucrats. And Edith, who'd arrived by mistake, smiled like she'd planned it all along.